Hey everyone, it's Simon Sparrow. Welcome back to MSEM. We're at round 2 of the Grand Prix, almost at round 3, and we're seeing a really interesting matchup today. I believe the two decks are monocolored, if I remember correctly. I think Toast is the one on mono red, but we'll see in a second as soon as okay, good, I was correct. Toast is on a mono red aggro plan, so we're going to see some cards that are pretty much staples here in the format, cards that have been here since kind of like day one, and a few of them that as soon as they released have been included in our aggro slash burn build. So you're going to see a lot of basic mountains. You're going to see Scorches, 3 damage sorcery to any target. Rogar's Gambit is 2 damage to any target as a sorcery, but it has reprise. So for 1 in a red, you can add its effect to another card, another instant or sorcery when you cast it, I believe. So it's 2 and then another 2, and then it damage dealt by sources reprising. It can't be prevented, which can come up. Banished Companion is a great early attacker, so it looks like Epid's going to be on the play, so obviously it would have been better on turn 1 if Toast had gotten the play here, but we've got Scorches, we've got Banished Companions, and we've got 3 basics, and it looks like Epid has the exact same here with 3 basic swamps using the Pokelands lair that came out recently. We've got a turn 1 Expose or a turn 1 Valdez's Pinch Pennies. Your opponent knows that you're running mono red, so Expose is just always going to hit a red card. Pinch Pennies will let you hit a specific card. So, I mean, in this case, Expose just easily is the better card here, though in terms of hitting exactly what you need. Valdez does come with, you know, a 2/3 with that can go up to a +2/+0 in Menace, and it's very likely that Toast's hand is going to empty out pretty quickly here. On 2, we've got Mind's Contagion, not a card that I see very often, and it just came out in End of Volancy, and I like it a lot. It's a flying 2/1, has haste as long as there's 2 or more creature cards in your graveyard, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player until your next turn, it gains non-creature spells opponents cast cost an additional 2 life to cast. So it's a really good 2/1 flyer here for 2. It's also a demon, which is relevant. I believe Epid's deck runs the titular Profane Emissary. You can therefore fetch it out. And yeah, it's just nice to see this card. I don't think it's seen a lot of play before this month. And also coming in from End of Volancy, we have Unfathomable Terror. It's a 6/6 for 6 Demon Serpent. The relevant part here is fleeting, 1 black. It's kind of like an alternative evoke, except it stays around until the end. And whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, that player discards a card. Then they have to discard another card, and if they don't, you get 2 2/1s. So all that to say, kind of just goes out the window because Epid decided to mulligan that hand. Looks like we have only a single swamp, which is definitely not as great, but we have 3 copies of Vein Drinker's Kabbalist as a 1/1 Menace lifelink, and once during each of your turns, if you would gain life, you may create a tapped treasure token instead. They don't really stack up, but it will provide a few treasure tokens if one survives to start putting in damage. And there's still a turn 1 Valdez. Turn 2, you could basic land cycling the most important prince to force your opponent to discard a card. So, which is not bad. Obviously, you probably want it in play eventually. And then Oryx Soulweaver can do a lot whenever you cast black spells. You get to pick up to X. So it looks like we're leading with a creature here with Vein Drinkers. We'll see what Toast draws here. It looks like it's another Scorch. That's going to be a lot of damage going face, honestly. Your opponent's not going to block the Banished Companion, so you can chip in for 2. Of course, it deals 2 damage to you, but which means that eventually Banished Companions sometimes turn off, but they're still one of the best 1-drop aggressive creatures that we have here in the format. Drawing a second swamp here is pretty good. Would have been kind of horrible to be stuck on that 1 land. Kabbalist is a tapped treasure token creator instead of just a regular token, so you wouldn't have had it this turn anyway. Now the question is, do you run out Kabbalist and maybe Valdez, hit the hand, build up the board, or do you basic land cycle a most important prince to get a swamp? The opponent does have 2 or more cards in hand, so would have to discard 1. Probably would just discard a mountain here, but very fun card. Also, that's not just a cycle trigger, it's also whenever it attacks, so All right, if we're tapping the 1, well, in this case, it'll hit just about anything. So highest, unfortunately, is just going to hit everything that's mana 1. So it'll either be a Gambit or a Scorch. It's definitely going to have to be a Scorch, I would imagine. You don't want to really put Rogar's Gambit in the graveyard. We'll just put that here. Oh. Oh, is it the... Oh, duh, of course, the opponent. Sorry, I was thinking of expose here. We are putting Rogar's Gambit in the yard because we get to make the pick. So, all right, swinging in for 1. I'm going to assume we're not going to get the life and we're going to go for the tap treasure instead, which looks like that's what we did. And then with the second one, we're going to run out another Vein Drinker's Kabbalist. So Kabbalist used to not be just once during each of your turns, which meant that it made a fantastic blocker. So now it's just your turn. Makes a big difference. We drew a Suitor of the Sea, so very good aggressive creature. It's kind of like our second. Like the core is usually Banished Companion, Suitor of the Sea. There's a few others that come in and out, but these are like really the main 2s. It's a 2/1. In the beginning of your upkeep, it just deals a damage to each player. So, all right, pay the 2 life, attack with Banished Companion here. So, I don't know if it's technically correct but there is a world where you might, if you can get to the 3rd land, you can Scorch and Rogars. You can like take out both of these before they generate treasures or do more. But we'll see what the game plan is. Suitor of the Sea, and then a Scorch. Are we going face, or are we taking it? Okay, we're pushing damage face. Neither of these gain life, but if we find a Profane Emissary, that could be more of an issue. I called it. There it is. So as soon as we find a demon off of Profane Emissary, that's going to be some lifelink. But in the meantime, it is Scorchable. We can go up to 4 mana. No, not this turn. It would be still 3 because we didn't draw the land, and it's going to be a tap treasure. So that could be Profane. That could be Prince. That could be Oryx. So we have the flexibility of which card we want to play. But it's only going to be the 1. So Suitor is going to start dinging. Okay, we're attacking with both. So 2 damage, you gain 1 treasure, and you gain 1 life. Why are we making 2 treasures? Oh, it's 1... Never mind. The 2 do the connect. We're fine. And it replaces both of each other's life. So you get lots of treasures, but you're just not able to use them all. Oryx Soulweaver is really good. 3 toughness is relevant. I'm going to imagine it's going to eat a Scorch. There we go. Suitor of the Sea does the ping. Okay. We're at like the amount of basic mountains that we probably want to be without too much more. Something that we can do here is use Rogar's Gambit and a Scorch from hand to do 3 and 2. So you could do 3 to Auric and then either 2 to the face or 2 to one of the Vein Drinkers if you really need to. So, all right. So Soulweaver gets taken out. And damage dealt by sources reprising Rogar's Gambit cannot be prevented. So, all right, we're going to push in 4 damage. That puts your opponent at 6. And then you've got a Scorch in hand, so your opponent's at 3. An extra point here, right? Your opponent's at 2, so if you can get the hit in, these might have to block. We'll see what the draws say. There's 4 mana to play with, so keeping up, having actually this mountain here is quite relevant for a most important prince, because if it was something else, you know. But yeah, 2 or more cards there's a reason why there's that rider, and it's not just 1 card. Cecilius of Wicked Ways is fun. So it's a 4-mana planeswalker. It's got +1 remove all counters from target permanent, so it just murders other walkers, which is really funny. +1 is each opponent discards a card. So you could cycle that first and then do that to, really take out your opponent. The -2 is the ability that I like the most because it's exile a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control. If you do, create a token that's a copy of it. Unfortunately, we don't have the third land to get an Auric Soulweaver. -7 is each opponent gets an emblem with beginning of your upkeep. You lose 7 life unless you sacrifice 7 permanents. So it'll eventually just, straight up kill you. So it really will depend on what we draw. Right now it's just Scorches in the Yard, right? If you keep 2 blockers, you prevent these from going in. That's always going to hit you for 1 here. You've got the mana to cycle and, Profane, so you would get your third land, and then Cecilius could -2, but you're really low on life. Your opponent doesn't have 1 or fewer, so you don't have a 4/3 Menace Raccoon. Kind of a big thing here. Obviously, you're not dead if your opponent doesn't draw something really gross, right? And you don't just swing in. Profane Emissary will, earn lifelink pretty quickly. Okay, looks like we're cycling the Prince. So I think we're going to see that 1 mountain get discarded here. Okay, so we are cycling, just confirming that. Mountain gets pitched, your opponent's going to go get a basic swamp. Love these the basics that are being played. Funnily enough, they're both my lairs. I just like re-arting basic lands. If I had like the time and permission, I would just make like a 100 card set that was just, tons of like 20 different cycles of basics. I like having lots of options, and I'm happy that a few of them have really resonated with players, especially this cycle. The Wanderlust lands are probably my favorites that I've made because they come from one of my favorite board games, Parks and Trails, respectively. And I think they just work so well in these full art frames. So one day I would love to have these posters on my wall. All right, so there's the swamp. We've got 3 mana to play with. It's not a Cecilius, so I would imagine we're running out the Profane here using one of our treasures. Nothing in the yard, right? Yeah. All right, speaking of, there's the Profane. So there's no demon on the field, but as soon as there is, this becomes a 4/4 lifelink. So it really will depend on what we draw. If we draw another, it's unlikely that it's a Scorch, but if we draw another haste creature, it could do something. I don't imagine there's going to be an attack here. That seems really risky. Okay, perhaps I'm wrong. I feel if you know your opponent has, Banished Companions and haste, you got to be wary of one of them being drawn. Maybe we're just going to go up to the 7 life, which could be relevant here. Yep, 7 life. All right. Okay, that I agree with. That makes a big difference because of the 2 burn points here. You go to 6 because of, well, I mean, you go to 6 because of Suitor of the Sea. We'll see. If this is a mountain, though, it's kind of sad. Not that there's anything Toast could do about it if we draw a basic mountain. I mean, it could just... That's what it could be. All right. We're at upkeep. We're thinking... I don't think there's anything in the graveyard here. It's just 2 Scorches and a mountain, right? So, Suitor hits and hits. All right. Hey, it's a mountain. Um, yeah. You could use. I mean, we're not out of it. I think now just the correct thing is to, yeah, I agree with the attack. If your opponent misplays and just, doesn't block or doesn't trade profane and takes two, we're just that much closer. Could be a vein drinker trading into a suitor. This does have lifelink though, so we do go back up to 7. Okay, we're trading and trading. Honestly, fine with that. Now you just gotta really, I mean, now that we have the Scorch in hand, the question is, do we use it? So obviously Toast doesn't know that Epid has Caecilius in hand. Caecilius is going to be able to bring back a Profane Emissary or the Prince or the Auric Soul Weaver. Okay, we're in block right now, but I assume this is kind of like a main phase 2 here for tapping a mountain. The 2 points of life, well, actually 3, I guess, right? No, 2? 2. This one was tapped. So 2 points of life made a difference here. Pretty important stuff. Let's see what it is. Like, there's a world where you draw a Rogar's Gambit, and then if you have 4 mana, you can go Rogar's Gambit for 2, and then another 5 between Scorch and the increase. So that's not horrible. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Between those 2 cards, which is what your opponent's at. But if Epid hits another point of life off of Vein Drinker, yep. Okay, choosing to hold up both cards. Swamp is not super, but 4 lands is not horrible. You have a little more to play with every turn. And we know Caecilius is going to bring something back. I would imagine Caecilius is bringing something back. I wouldn't imagine that we're just doing the +1 discard here. I feel like you want to get more things on the board. Toast has had to throw some burn twice now at your opponent's creatures. So, at this one and burn and or creatures, right? The whole board at it. So here we go. And now that we're at 4 lands, I would imagine we're just gonna eke a few more life points out of here. Yep, going back up to 8. Every little bit counts. So are we gonna see Caecilius run out here? I would imagine. Yep. I mean, there's still an out. It's just getting harder and harder here, I think. Doing a quick look at our players' deck list. We have some cards that could be good. Civilization's Cost is going back in the sideboard, that's for sure. Oh my gosh, I hope we don't draw that. I mean, there's a few things, but we're running further and further behind. Okay, so we went to 5. Okay, I was wrong. Looks like we're going for a discard, so we're going to see that mountain get pitched. It's going to be hard to stock up multiple burn spells, but still not putting a lot of pressure here on the board. So there's Bazet Charm. So that's 3 damage to target player or planeswalker. So we have 6 damage in hand, and we have to kind of play it all out. So I'm assuming that's what's going to happen here. Put your opponent to 2. Or are we doing... Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then the 1 life that will happen off of the Vein Drinkers will put up to 3, and then you hope to pull a 3 damage spell, and that'll be it. Problem is, you have a few whiffs right now. I mean, a basic swamp is a whiff as well. Storm Surge can get there, Bazet Charm can get there, Scorch can get there, but there's only 1 left. Hatsuo's and Rogar's Gambit do not get there at the moment. Brazen Sacrilege doesn't get there. It's, yeah, there's a lot of draws that won't make it. We're doing the -2 here, so we're bringing back the Soul Weaver. No black spells, so, I mean, if your opponent's just drawing these basic swamps, it definitely makes a big difference. The target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life is pretty relevant. Oh, that's true. We do have 1 black spell. So X is the number of black mana symbols in its mana cost. So there's 1. So we're draining. So Toast is at 4. Epid goes up to 3. Oh, that's a big one. Because that means now that Vein Drinker's Kabbalist, if we go for the life gain, will be up 4 to 3. Just flipping those life totals here. And 4 is a very relevant point. Also, you know that every future spell is going to drain you. And there's the basic mountain. So that's going to be game 1. Yeah. What we'll do is we'll move over and I can show you the sideboards and deck list that I was looking at. So we're packing, 4 Suitors of the Seas, 4 Banished Companions, 4 Neon Claw Knights, 4 Dissidents. These are nice classic cards. I mean, Neon Claw is pretty new, but the rest are like bread and butter staples. Brazen Sacrilege here is quite nice with a lot of the cards like Rikiri Dissident and stuff. Civilization's cost going to go in the sideboard for sure. Scorch, Gambit, Charm, Maneuver, Storm Surge probably also fine. Let's see what we have here. These are staying far away from this deck. There's something... Are you bringing in Shikai's? We've got what? Cecilius brought stuff back, but there wasn't too much else. Your opponent's wasn't super slow. I'm not sure if there's a lot of time for Prescience, but not really any artifacts. I mean, Forked Pillar is good. I would bring in the Forked Pillars. They have a lot of 1/1s and X2s, and being able to go 2 and 2 is quite relevant. And over on Epid's side, we've got, Vein Drinkers, Mind's Contagion, Profane. We've got a few demons here that we can get out. So Kaizao, Yu Wang, Oryx Soulweaver, we've got the Prince, we've got Halford, Valdez, Unfathomable. Some nice, like, big mid-range demons. Cecilius, 2 copies. We've got Temorations here, which are actually going to be pretty good in this matchup. Expose, Wave of Decay, very good in this matchup. Just absolutely dumpsters 2 creatures and you gain X life. Long Forgotten is probably fine. There's 1 copy of Polyp Pools and then a few other things in the sideboard. I imagine maybe Temeration also comes in, so does Anapraxia's Endeavor. Being able to get something -2/-2, the gain 4 life mode seems relevant. I mean, this sideboard seems just much stronger, so we'll see how that plays out. Our players are ready, so let's see. Nothing from sideboard that I can see in the top part. And nothing from sideboard in this bottom part. So it looks like both players are keeping. This is a good aggressive opener where you have your Banished Companions, and because you're on the play, makes a big difference. I'm imagining Forked Pillars came in. I mean, they're going to be fantastic against, 4 of these creatures. Not... Oh, the Oryx Soulweaver isn't here yet. So yeah, actually all 5 of... Okay, no, not Valdez. There it is. That's what I was thinking. These 3, this one, All right. So there's Dissident. That's actually quite nice to see early. So it's a 2/2 haste whenever a player casts a spell. It deals a damage to that player. It's got haste as well. Makes a difference. Brazen Sacrilege is quite neat because, it deals 2 damage to any target. All right. And by itself just being haste means that now we're putting in 4 damage here. Epid's fine. Wants to keep the Vein Drinker's Kabbalist alive here, either for a future block or getting some of those early tap treasures will be relevant. Would be nice to stop drawing basic swamps, I imagine, at one point, but 4 is like kind of a good number. Next turn, what do we have? We have some really gross things with like Hatsuo's Maneuver. Like it deals 1 damage as a sorcery, and it creates a number of 1/1 Red Warrior creature tokens equal to the damage dealt by this spell, which synergizes well when you reprise it into something here. But the 1 point of damage and the 1 creature is exactly the kind of thing you want to take out Vein Drinker's Kabbalist. I mean, there's kind of a world, and I get why we didn't do it. It was nice to have Rikiri out early, where we could have gone Banished Companion, Hatsuo's Maneuver, taken out the Vein Drinker's Kabbalist, Still swung for 4, and then would have had 5 on the following turn. But taking the treasure or the life here, looks like we went for treasure. Yeah, this is could be quite relevant. Your opponent will be at 4 mana next turn. This is profane, I would imagine. Yeah, so early profane. I don't think profane's going to last very long. This is probably going to be a brazen sacrilege turn. So just to be clear, because it's if a red source would deal damage to that player or to that permanent's controller, you can throw 2 damage at a profane emissary with it, and then it gives kind of like +1/+0 to the rest of your board. And it only does it to the opponent, so you don't take extra damage from... Okay. And what do we have here? Neon Claw Knight. Okay, won't have haste this turn, but you could still sequence it because it gives you the reduction mode, but we'll see what happens here. Okay, Sacrilege. I'm assuming 2 damage to the Profane Emissary. There it goes. And then, yeah, until end of turn, things are going to do big damage. So we could run out Banish Companion, or we could also take out the Vein Drinkers using Hatso's Maneuver. I think, either or feel pretty good. Why are we taking 2? Oh, was that 1 from Brazen? Okay, yeah. Just want to make sure we didn't take it twice. All right. So Hatsuo's will deal 2 damage to the opponent, and you'll get 2 1/1s. Okay. I like that too. These are good blockers against, the Menace Lifelink. And we're going to swing in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. A lot of damage. And there's still more haste damage here coming up. We're not picking up a Pullet Pool, so we're not gaining 4 life. There's the Endopraxias. We were pretty sure that this was going to be here in the sideboard. Yeah, I mean, gain 4 life is not nothing. If we play the Swamp, we can actually use 2 modes. So you can -2, and get your Profane back and 4 life. So that's an option. Valdez goes lowest, it hits this. Highest will hit the Neon Claw Knight. All right. Looks like we're using Enterpraxis just -2 mode, going to 4, taking out Dissident. All right. And then I guess if we've got the 2 mana, we're either cycling, playing some combination of this then, yeah. Okay. Epid might be thinking a little. All right, there we go. Ping 1. Okay, Valdez. Highest or lowest? Lowest, okay. Highest is Neon Claw Knight. Will not be hitting the Banished Companion, which is quite relevant since it has haste. But Neon Claw Knight is really a good beater too. All right, there's 1 treasure left, so it could be a second Vein Drinker's Cabalist here. Okay, looks like that's what we're doing. All right. And yeah, leaving both up. That makes sense to me. Let's hope again for not a basic mountain. Okay, this has Reprise. Oh, Scorch is big here, actually. My gosh, Scorch is just exactly what you want. That's going to be a game 3 here, right? Banish Companion. I mean, Banish Companion also does a lot, right? Like they're going to block here, they'll take 2, and then you put them down with Scorch. Yeah, Power of Aggro. Was this a turn 3 or turn 4, right? Because it was 3 land swamps here. So turn 4. You have to take 4 damage here though, but it won't matter, but okay. Good. It's good practice just to remember this stuff. Well, you can't let both of these through. These do have lifelink, so we're not out of it yet. So let's see how the blocks go. I mean, actually, we don't have lethal this turn because of the lifelink, unless Epid blocks oddly and lets an extra point of damage through. But maybe thinking I have to get rid of at least one of these things off the board. Would scorching one of the Vein Drinkers have changed anything? There would be 1 fewer block, so they would have blocked 2 damage and gained 1. So it would have been at 5, and they would have taken 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd be at 1 as well. But you'd guarantee, yeah, it's. I mean, the correct thing, right, is to soak the biggest damage. You're at 4 life. You obviously can't let it all through. You just die. So you don't want to be at 2 life. You know your opponent's holding up a card, hasn't played it out. 2 life is a dangerous place to be at because of the 2 damage spells and the 3 damage ones. So you've got to get yourself to stay at essentially 4 life, and you do that by blocking the 2 Banish Companions. Yep. All right, there it is. So taking 2 damage, gaining 2 life, the life totals remain the same, but lost pretty much the board. But you had to do it. You know your opponent can get to, so, I mean, Toast knows Epid can get to 4 mana, and then Cecilius to discard. So now the question is, do you throw it? I would. I would personally fire off the Scorch, put your opponent at 1 life, and then say, all right, find an answer to 4 creatures. I've got 9 life. You can run out of Valdez. See? Yeah, now it can't hit your Scorch. Yeah, that's another reason. Pinch Pennies and Expose can't get there. All right, game 3. Close ones. I love it when we get a game 3. You know, these are 2 nice little matches. Aggro clearly able to do a lot. I didn't see a Forked Pillar. I would still assume that they're in the deck. We saw the Endopraxias. What did we use the rest of the mana that turn on? Was that on Vein Drinker's Cabalist to get a second body out instead of running or was that the turn where we dropped Profane Emissary? I don't remember. I was wondering if there was a reason maybe we should have kept well, okay. I'm looking at hands, so let's check it ourselves. Only 1 mountain, and some of the stuff we have here costs more. This costs 1 if you orchestrate it. Rogar's banished. A second mountain, and we're in business. Epid is keeping 1 because, you know, Exposed, Temeration, and Valdez are early. Both players keeping one landers, but then after it, there's not much on the board. Is the issue here, right? So it'll be like deal with your opponent's thing, deal with your opponent's thing, right? And this is gonna be Valdez Lois, or are we going right away with Expose Red? Okay, Expose Red. I'm assuming we're taking Banish Companion here. I love it when players are silly. Yeah, well, you're both monocolors, so hand attack always hits. Expose does cost 1 life, by the way. It's if you manage to hit something of that color, they discard and you lose a life. If it whiffs, nothing. So I really like Expose. I think okay, there goes Companion. I think in a Grand Prix world, Expose is just fantastic. So very happy with this design. Pipsqueak did a really fantastic job with this card. And I love that everyone uses the cat version, but like the original art for Expose is equally awesome. I just love it, and it's got a Sicilius flavor text too, right? You're in too deep and you can't keep your secrets one and all, so like love it. Considering would love to see some more reprints and re-arts of it. It's just a really nice looking piece of art. Second Mountain here is very nice. That's going to make these cards feel a lot better. I believe if you're at 1, you orchestrate Storm Surge, right? Like that seems relevant. And we're going to leave it here on the stack. Some players put it in with the, there's a tapped, there's a token that you can use as a reminder. Swarming Midden, really cool. Enters tapped unless you control a basic swamp. Well, there is a basic swamp. All right, there's Valdez. You've seen your opponent's hand, so you know that you can go low or high. We're going high, so you're throwing away either Rikiri or Neon Claw. Haven't drawn really anything new. What's funny is that if it was high and we still had Storm Surge in hand, it would have hit Storm Surge. Which is really funny, by virtue of being a spell that, costs cheaper when you orchestrate, but is actually 3 mana. It's like holding a Scornful Egotist in hand just to hose high mana value hand attack. Alright, so one of the Rikiris hits the bin. Still 1 mana open, so, Temeration is here. Nice to see it in play against the deck that, it actually does stuff. Hey, this Storm Surge is actually kind of funny here. So we could go Orchestrate Storm Surge and then fire off a Rogar's Gambit. It's 8 damage. But it's not putting anything on the field, so okay. We're going to go with Rikiri. So Rikiri enters, casts Storm Surge, 3 damage. And then you take 1, I believe, from, because it's when it resolves, right? Yeah. And we can attack for 2 as well, which is nice. But there's the Temeration. Very happy with the art. I'm happy that it's seeing some play. Last GP was not the place for it with all the 5 drops, but if people are running low to the ground 1s and 2s, I think Temeration hits enough targets. There's quite a few like scary 1-drops that can animate into creatures. It can hit creature lands. Temeration does quite a few things. And I like the little bonus of gaining 2 life if it was a token. All right. So there's Polyp Pools. So if ever we find one of Epid's Profane Emissaries, it's already going to be a 4/4 lifelink, which will make a difference. Not a 3rd land, but Neon Claw Knight with the reduction mode means we can run it out. And then, I mean, we know the opponent has Wave of Decay and Enopraxias, so we knew that post-sideboard, Epid's deck was going to get really good at, dealing with this one. Good. We went with amplify function, which is, if a spell would deal damage, it deals that much damage plus 1. And Apraxis is going to take out Neon Claw. Yeah, Wave of Decay is sorcery, so another Temeration here, not a third land, so nothing to play here. And I believe this is 3 to make Swarming Midden into a creature. But, yeah. Doesn't deal very well with spells. We've got a lot of potential damage here, right? Between the Orchestrate, the casts, the Reprise. You don't want to throw them all out and not be able to reprise. Is what's going to happen, right? So let's just check yard. There's okay, none of them here, and like I said, amplify is going to deal an extra point of damage here. So orchestrating cast, I agree with this. I think that's totally fine. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the face. And now that you have one gambit in the yard. Oh, we're using it right away. Okay. All right. There was a world where we keep it, right? And then on the next turn, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with your amplify. But I get wanting to run it out and not be hit by discard. So if that was the worry here about your opponent being able to get out of your hand, yeah, just empty the burn spells. If we find a Scorch anyway, we'll be able to use it. So Valdez comes out. Valdez is a 4/3 menace. Hopefully this isn't a basic mountain. Cool. Suitor of the Sea is alright. I mean, it's not going to survive the Temeration or a Wave of Decay, but every little point counts. All right, I'm glad that we updated the, just makes it easier for your opponent to see what's going on. Well, I mean, this turn seems pretty cut and dry, right? You can Temeration the Suitor if you want. That's not going to kill it. What do we have in the yard? No creatures to bring back with Cecilius yet. Profane is already got Polyp Pool, so, that's a thing. Okay, so Temeration, don't let your opponent get to the upkeep to ping. Profane Emissary is coming out. Polyp Pools is up, so now it's a 4/4 lifelink. Now things are starting to look a little difficult for Toast. Takes 4 here from Valdez. There's a Suitor, but it's not really what you want. You don't want the bodies so much as you want the burn spells to finish off your opponent's face, Swamp here. You got to run it out because your opponent's got a hand attack. I mean, Wave of Decay. Wave of Decay can kill the Suitor. I mean, if you're willing to spend 1 on that. You can also just animate your Swarming Midden here. You can run out. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. Okay. Going for big life here. So X is 3. Yeah, I think this is going to be a GG moment here. Taking 8, gaining another 4. Epid's back up to 15. We just didn't quite have the burst that we needed on this time around. Alrighty. Ignore the logged out due to inactivity. It just happens when there's long matches. There's really not much I can do about it. And yeah, Forked Pillar would have been great before. Oh, actually, there's no. Hold up. We have Forked Pillar and we have a Gambit, right? So you can go Forked Pillar with a Rogar's Gambit here. Use the Amplify mode. You can definitely take out the Profane Emissary. I don't think, can you take out both? It's an instance of 3 and instance of 3, right? If it would deal damage, it deals that much damage plus 1. Yeah. So it doesn't clear them. You definitely don't want to leave this alive. But I mean, your opponent's got a Swarming Midden next turn as a 2/3, right? 4/4 lifelink, 4/3 menace. There is 6 damage on board if either of those stay up. Okay, everything at Emissary. We didn't have to use the Amplify function then, right? Unless we wanted the 3 damage. Okay. If the point was the 3 damage to the face as well, then yes. Amplify was nice, but nope. I apologize. It's my 1 o'clock timer here. Just Swarming Midden, swing for 6. Yep. And woo, that's a wrap. So yeah, decently great games. I'm glad we managed to get all 3 in. Swarming Midden would have even made some more friends there. Yeah, just didn't quite have the burst at the end, but Toast put up a good fight. And Epid's deck, the sideboard was very, very good against Toast's Mono Red. So good luck to both players for next round. Thanks for everyone for stopping by and watching the match. And I hope you enjoy all the content we've got for you today. There might be another one coming later today. So take care and see you in the next one.